This is a special event that we've put together to bring some clarity around the recently passed legislation, the C.A.R.E.S Act. We've got two amazing guests with us today, and we're going to dive into some of your questions. I want to really encourage you to post in the chat box exactly what you're curious about the C.A.R.E.S Act, what you're curious about the stimulus money, the PPP, the Payroll Protection Program. We're very curious to know what your questions are, and we've got some lined up ourselves. So I'm going to introduce our two guests with us today. We have Tim Nelson. Tim Nelson has been a CPA for 30 years and is the owner of his own firm here in Reno. And then we also have Lisa Fleck. Lisa Fleck is a producing branch manager with Fairway Mortgage, has been in lending for 20 years. And Lisa and I are going to pretty much bombard Tim with questions like we have been for the last week or so. So Tim, let's just dive in right now. And again, please post your questions in the comment box here on Facebook. We'd love to see them. Tim, tell us just what, in general layman's terms, what the heck is the C.A.R.E.S Act?
So the C.A.R.E.S Act was passed on March 27th, signed into law on March 27th, stands for the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. Congress likes to put cute acronyms around legislation that kind of points people in the right direction. So the big thing about that, they saw that we were going to have this kind of tsunami of businesses and individuals that were going to be in trouble. And so they passed an over $2 trillion benefit programs and resources designed to mitigate the financial aspects of the coronavirus on the U.S. economy. It's got a huge amount of programs in there, depending on which industry you're in, whether or not you are a hospital or a general business or self-employed or an individual or have employees that are going, to be gone as a result of COVID-19 or the coronavirus. Just a huge, wide-ranging set of programs related to the C.A.R.E.S Act. The next 4 weeks, next four sessions that we're going to be talking about, different aspects of the C.A.R.E.S Act and different things that the feds and the states are going to be doing to help us out in this very hopefully short-term nature of the coronavirus. And today is really focused on kind of the economic stimulus or the loan programs, stimulus benefits for the little guy. Right, Lisa? Little guy.
Yeah, right. The little guy. We got to take care of that little guy because there's a whole bunch of stuff that's new. Normally, when there's support or government programs, that those small business owners, those people that are self-employed, smaller businesses, they kind of oftentimes get lost. Is that right, Tim? And so this is a whole new arena available to them that they've never had before when there's been stimulus packages.
That's absolutely correct. So the government has really tried to hit individuals via the direct economic, stimulus payments. They've tried to hit these small businesses with the two programs we're going to talk about specifically today regarding the EIDL loans and the PPP loans, which has been on kind of everybody's tongue for the last couple of weeks. And then very specific industries, special carve-outs for hospitals and special carve-outs for people in industries significantly impacted by the COVID-19 shutdowns and modifications to our behaviors, right? 3 months ago, 4 months ago, we didn't really have any idea. Everybody was humming along and saying, oh my God, what are we going to, when's this thing going to end? And who knew that it was, 2 months ago?
So Tim, can you, again, if we're chatting layman's terms here, explain to me PPP and when you say EIDL, what are the two biggest differences between the two and who qualifies for either one?
Perfect. So there's two main loan programs out there for small businesses. Small businesses being defined as people that employ less than 500 employees that otherwise meet the small business size standards, that kind of thing. The SBA has really tried to make it easy for these people to get these loans. So they've waived lending fees and they've waived SBA fees. That kind of thing. So the EIDL loans, which spelled EIDL, stands for the Economic Injury Disaster Loans. That's a high-level loan that you can get up to $2 million for covering your operating expenses, that kind of thing. The other loan, and I'll get into detail in each one of these, the other loan is the Payroll Protection Program, or the PPP loan. That's really designed to be the lesser of $10 million or 2.5 months of your average monthly payroll costs. What's exciting to a lot of small businesses and self-employed people is that loan can be forgivable if, in fact, you use it for the purposes for which it was intended, payroll and benefit stuff. So the EIDL, a little bit more detail. Again, you can get up to $2 million. It's designed to be a low interest rate loan for those businesses impacted by COVID-19. And I challenge the two of you to point to an industry that might not be impacted by COVID-19. But the exciting part about that is you apply directly with the SBA. They will allow you to have deferred payments up to 12 months. Even when you begin making payments, it's a 3.75% interest rate, or if you're a not-for-profit, 2.75% interest rate, and a term of 30 years.
And that's for, Tim, that's for the EIDL loan or for the PPP?
Yes, for the EIDL loan itself, yep.
Okay, so for the EIDL loan, I'm going to go through, and I'm a small business owner, or I would qualify for that. I go directly through the SBA. So SBA.gov, there's likely a link for me to click there and answer questions, and I can apply for the loan directly through the SBA. My understanding is with the payroll protection, the PPP, that I'm applying through my bank. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yep. So they started out saying preferred SBA lenders. They opened that up to pretty much any FDIC insured institution. But yeah, the local bank, the national bank, the regional banks all have their different processes and procedures for applying for that loan. So while it is an SBA backed loan, it's actually a loan through your financial institution. So
before we went live here, one of the things I had asked you, and I'm sure others are curious about, what's the success that you're seeing with people? Do you know of anybody who has money in their account today from applying for either one of these loans?
The secret word on the street is that I've heard of several people that say that they have been approved for either the EIDL loan or the PPP loan. Of the, 40 applications with our firm has been, personally involved in, we know of nobody that actually has money in bank as of today.
Now, is that something that I would say that that's probably something that we expected, that it wouldn't be instant. Do you feel like that there's a time frame where people could expect to receive money?
No. Yes.
You're scaring me, Tim. You're scaring me.
Your friends at the SBA say they're processing applications just as quickly as they can. The great news is that these programs were, overwhelmingly accepted by the small business community, and the bad news is they were overwhelmingly, accepted by the small business community. So I talked to one local bank that on Friday, April 3rd, when applications were supposedly be submitted, they had over 1,000 applications. I spoke to that same senior vice president on Tuesday about midday, and they had 5,000 applications. The program for the PPP, for example, is supposed to be $350 billion. They have to have had more than enough applications to be able to use up all that $350 billion. Trump has said he's gone back to both houses of the Congress to ask for an additional couple $100 billion expansion to this program, just because there's a lot of businesses that are actually hurting out there.
Right. One of the questions in the chat from Shannon Goodman was, I was told that if you apply for the disaster loan, they let you advance up to $10K upfront. You can keep the money even if you're not approved for a larger loan. That $10K advance is considered a grant. Is that how you understand it?
Absolutely. For the EIDL loan, as you go through your little 15-minute application through the SBA site, there is a little box that says, please advance me up to $10,000 to help me out until they get back to you. If you click that little box, you're supposed to be getting kind of advanced monies up to $10,000, and you're absolutely right. That $10,000 is does not have to be repaid and is not considered taxable income to you in this 2020 year. That is also true for the PPP loan. If you get the PPP loan and you use it for the purposes for which it was intended, mainly payroll, but you can also use mortgage interest for the PPP loan, for rent, and for utilities. And as long as 75% is used for payroll and all of the loan is used for those things we just described, or I just described, that's supposed to also be forgiven as well.
So, okay, then why wouldn't I, under that scenario, why wouldn't I just apply for the EIDL loan and ask my 10 grand right off the bat, knowing that it's not taxable income, and I don't have, or I don't have to pay it back? It turns into a grant. Am I understanding that right?
That's absolutely right. And I don't know why you haven't done it already. That's kind of a rhetorical.
I'm like, are you kidding me?
Let me get off this and go do that right now.
It's over. Everybody's got to figure this out.
For people, like with the EIDL loans, other than the $10,000, it does not get forgiven. But let's say that you're having trouble making your mortgage payment. The PPP loan will allow you to cover mortgage interest, but not principal. The EIDL loan will actually apply, or allowed to be used for any types of debt. So if you're having trouble making your mortgage payments and you don't mind kind of stretching out that term, that's a great resource to be able to tap into and stretch that payment term, that SBA term, over a 30-year period.
So that's kind of interesting in regards to, if I'm understanding this correctly, Tim, for people who are self-employed or run small businesses, that they could do the EIDL application for that $10,000 grant, use that for income, but also use it to pay their mortgage, as opposed to looking at going and doing a forbearance on the mortgage, which is not a forgiveness, which at the end of the day on the back end, which we're going to be talking about in a couple of weeks, at the end of the day on the back end, you can get the forbearance right up front, but you have to qualify on how you're going to pay the bank back, because you are going to have to pay the bank back.
Right.
So if that's the case, and you're self-employed and a small business owner, that might be a better option. Or you're saying that to take that money and use it to pay your mortgage so you don't have to go into forbearance? Am I understanding that correctly or not?
The only point of clarification to what you just said was, remember, these loans are designed to be for small business. So when the SBA kind of put the framework around the EIDL loans, it's really for, business mortgages, things like that. I guess if we're self-employed.
Not personal. Okay, good. That clarifies it. Okay, excellent. Thank you.
So another question.
If you're using your home in office, you could probably say that a portion of your home was related to that.
Right.
Another question in the group is, I applied for the 10K. What if you did the application before April 3rd? Do you have to redo the app, or will they still be able to process it?
Because your bank is very specific as to their criteria, there was actually an updated application put out by the SBA. Of the 10 different financial institutions, 11 different financial institutions that we've been working with, only a few of those have required a resubmission using the new form. Most of them captured all of the information, or 95% of the information with the original application, and are not requiring that. So I guess the answer is check with your lender, but most of them are not requiring a resubmission.
And then this 10. So sorry, another question that just came through. So I did it on the SBA.gov website. I didn't do it through my bank. So if I did it before April 3rd on the SBA.gov website, do I need to do it again?
If you are applying for only the EIDL loan, the emergency disaster loan, that is directly through the SBA, and that's the only way you can apply for the EIDL loan. If you want the PPP loan, the payroll protection, which is the mostly forgivable loan, you have to go through your lender.
Got it. And then also is the EIDL loan, let's say I get that 10 grand, is that a business loan or is that going against my personal credit?
It's supposed to be for business expenses. It's supposed to be for covering your business operational expenses. My understanding is if the loan, the EIDL loan, not the PPP loan, so the PPP loan is supposed to be corporate guarantee free, personal guarantee free, relatively little financial data to be submitted other than your calculation of your payroll. For the EIDL loan, if it goes $200,000 or more, they're supposed to apply the 7A criteria, meaning that you will have to sign a guarantee, because that, again, is a real loan that, but for the $10,000 doesn't get forgiven.
Got it. So if you're applying for this EIDL loan, it is for business use, right? This is not a free 10 grand to go on a all expenses paid trip on the government when this is all over, correct?
That's true, Jared. So when you went offline just now to apply for your EIDL loan and booking the Cabo vacation in August, all of those SBA standards for fraud and that kind of thing are still supposed to apply to this EIDL loan as well.
But does Mexico extradite? That's the question. Can I stay there or? So okay. So I think I hope that it's clear the difference between the two. The EIDL loan, you apply through the SBA. The PPP, you're going to apply through your bank. You may, if you're one of the fortunate ones, you may get your $10,000 wired to you or direct deposited to you quickly. The PPP is based upon how quickly your bank can process that, and it's likely that the $350 billion that was earmarked for it has been all used up or close to it. So do you expect that Congress or the Senate will put together another plan to make more money available?
So here I'll get out my crystal ball, and there are 435 members of Congress. I gotta believe that they're going to expand the program, but trying to guess what all those people are going to do beyond me. So I'm going to say yes. You heard it here first. Whatever it is that they got to expand the program, just based on the number of applications that they've already seen, they've already had. So. Yeah, I got to believe that they will.
And from the mortgage world, we saw posted this morning that the reason why there was $2 trillion the first time was it was an administrative cap as to what they could do. It was a legislative cap, and that the intention is, and the word is that there's going to definitely be one, more than likely two, and possibly three.
Yeah, I heard that too. That they think there's going to be 3 rounds of this.
Yeah.
So how as a small business owner, how should we be preparing if the SBA, so I apply for the loan and the SBA comes back and says you're approved, or we need more information, or with the PPP, like what are some of the things that me as a small business owner should have in front of me today?
Yeah, so for the PPP program, because that seems to be the more popular of the 2 programs, you've got to have your payroll data ready. Most financial institutions are requiring calendar year 2019 and year-to-date 2020 payroll data. It's kind of a self-reporting to the financial institution. Many of them are also then asking for your 941s, which is your quarterly payroll tax reports to the federal government, your W-2s and W-3s, that kind of thing. A couple of financial institutions are actually asking for granular payroll data, which is kind of by employee, by month for that same period. The SBA has indicated that they prefer the last 12 months of payroll data, meaning from April 1 of 2019 to March 31st of 2020. But a lot of people either haven't prepared their first quarter payroll tax reports yet. They're due at the end of this month, or already, haven't got their act together. So it's easier for them to give a calendar year's worth of data to their financial institution. What's important about this PPP loan, where payroll is a significant component of that, it's not just actual dollars paid to your employees. They will allow you to include the state and local payroll taxes. So if you're paying unemployment or modified business tax, if you're a large enough employer, you can include that in. You can include health insurance payments. You can include the employer portion of your retirement contributions in there as well. And so very important to make sure that you include all those components, because of course that allows you to have a larger loan amount at the front end by including that 2.5 months of, quote, payroll costs.
So I'm a small business owner, and before this was passed, my business was already affected. In March of, okay, let me re-say what I'm saying. I'm not talking about me personally. I'm saying there are small business owners out there who the coronavirus started hitting in here locally in Nevada, northern Nevada, in the beginning or mid-March, right? I started to see a dip in my business right away. So I already had to lay people off at that time or cut hours. My understanding is that with the PPP, for it to be forgiven, I can't do that, or I shouldn't do that. Am I understanding that correctly? And if that's the case, do I need to bring my employees back on?
Yeah, so you're exactly right. So the idea was we could pay these people to sit at home, or we could pay them to continue to contribute to our economy. So the payroll protection program is designed to keep those people working and producing in our economy. So Jared, when you let your 15 people go, when you started to be impacted by that, the idea is this PPP loan is designed for you to bring them back. They have overall payroll calculations that compare to a year ago, and they have a number of employee count that they compare to a year ago, with the idea that you have to keep at least 75% of the people that you did last year employed this year.
Got it. Okay. So I'm not too late if I've already done that. I can bring people back on as soon as I see the money or get approved, right?
Yeah, and there are some people that are recommending that you do that in advance, so that you bring them back now with the anticipation that you'll get this PPP loan.
So what about businesses that have been deemed non-essential? So restaurants, the way I'm understanding it, so if I'm a restaurant owner and I bring my people back and I open my doors for takeout or curbside, right? And so I now am starting to generate income again, and I'm being supported by the PPP to help pay my people because I'm not making obviously nearly as much money as I was making.
Right.
But what about businesses like, let's say, like, a large, like a local amusement park or something like that, where obviously, a bowling alley or something like that, where the theaters, things like that, where these people can't come back to work because you can't. I mean, you can have them, they're working, making popcorn, but they're not, giving it to anybody. So how does that kind of play in? And then also from the standpoint of like a person who is like self-employed, like I think we have probably a lot of realtors and people who are, appraisers and from my world type of thing, where they are the only employee. So which is a better way for them to go from that standpoint?
If you absolutely cannot bring your employees back, then the PPP program is probably not for you. It'll turn into a loan and you can pay them back. But if you're going to do that, the interest rate that it ultimately converts to is a 4% interest rate over a 10-year term. It's probably better to get a 3.75% interest rate through the EIDL loan that's over a 30-year term, and not put so much pressure on the repayback. Both these loans have no prepayment penalties, so you could do that over time. But certainly for self-employed and small business people, they're allowing you to use your PPP loan program to include your self-employment earnings. The prior guidance from the Small Business Administration was that self-employed people applications open tomorrow, April 10th. Well, if you've already heard from the SBA that all the money's gone, kind of a tough thing to say, hey, great, I'm a self-employed realtor. I make $100,000 a year net profit, and I can apply tomorrow when there's, 75,000 loan applications ahead of me. That's a made up number, by the way. But yeah, you're supposed to be able to use your self-employed earnings. So that's available to those small businesses and those people who are working for themselves.
Okay.
And that's something that they can apply directly through SBA.gov.
For the EIDL, yes. For the PPP, if they're going to try and get their own compensation forgiven, then only through the PPP, except for that $10,000 that Jared just applied for.
Because it's already gone. It's out the door. It's on its way.
Yeah, getting right on that. So Lisa Turner's a small business owner in Elko and is watching us. So hello, Lisa. Lisa said that they applied for the EIDL loan on SBA.gov, did not receive any type of confirmation email, expected that they would. Is that normal? Should she? Are your clients receiving confirmations from SBA that I went through?
So when you get through there's 5 screens that you go through on the SBA website. When you have completed that 5th screen, they will give you a confirmation number. There's not reply emails. There's not, loan numbers or case numbers assigned to you, but they will give you a number to wait in line. So Lisa, if you did not, if you got all the way through screen number 5 and you did not get your little confirmation number, there was a box that you didn't click or somehow you didn't cross the finish line. So I would go back and do it again because you should be getting that little number. So,
okay. Now, let's say I went through the application, I got my number, and I want to check the status. Is there any way, I saw somebody post yesterday, I've done all of those steps, I got my number, how do I know where I stand in line?
Yeah, like I said, the number of applications that they've gotten, even through the EIDL program, has exceeded the entire amount of loans that the SBA did in all of calendar 2019. And so they have not provided any guidance as to when they might respond to you, how they will respond to you, anything like that. And I know of nobody who has applied for the EIDL loan that has, other than that number, has received any kind of feel good that says, we got you, Jared. You're going to be, processed the week of June 2nd or anything like that.
Okay, so this is a soapbox moment and probably not something that you're commenting on. So I am a small business. I have 10 employees that I need to keep employed. I'm expected to do so if I want the loan forgiven. I'm bringing in no money currently because the coronavirus has hit my sector of the economy or hit my sector, and I don't have the cash flow that I used to. I'm supposed to pay my people and hope that one day that I will get this money and hope that one day it'll be forgiven. Am I understanding that?
That's the direction we're given. Now, the measurement period is actually the 8 weeks following the receipt of funds. So let's say you did apply for the PPP loan, Jared, and you go, hey, you guys all sit at home until I know that I'm going to be able to have the money to pay you. And then on May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, you get a direct deposit into your account of $87,239. Then the measurement period starts for the 8-week period after that. So you could call everybody up and say, hey, hurry up and show up to my place because I got a bunch of stuff for you to do. Lisa, come on over. We're going to make some movie popcorn. And then spend that money over that corresponding 8-week period. And then that would be forgiven as well because that's the measurement period.
Got it. Okay. So I guess I'm just feeling the frustration from people who are they're expected to continue to stay in business with no cash flow. And if they were a small business or let's say a restaurant who ran on small margins as it is, right. We just had April 1st. Our lease was just due or rent or mortgage is due, right? Payroll's still coming out if for the few employees that maybe we're keeping on. Nevada NV Energy, they still ran their the power bill and the phones are still due. So the real relief here, if you applied for it today, you could be kind of this indefinite amount of time before you know when the money is showing up.
Yeah, unfortunately, even whether it's through the EIDL and directly through the SBA with no information coming back, or if you went directly to your lender, and again, the most advanced people that I've heard of have submitted their PPP loans with their banks. It's certainly acknowledged by the bank that they accepted your application. The most advanced people have heard back, the bank has heard back from the SBA, says you are approved. And now they're waiting for the SBA loan documents to come back. So again, the two people that I know of that are supposed to get actual PPP funding tomorrow, as of 1:30 Pacific Standard Time, April 9th, have not received their SBA loan documents back saying under what terms are you going to accept this loan.
Oh, so they haven't had a chance to even sign the loan documents yet, because this is a loan. It is not.
Yeah, they have to process it as a loan, presuming that, because then you got to report back to your lender and say, I really did spend the money the way I'm supposed to for it to convert into a grant, a non-taxable grant.
So, question in the chat, what if I didn't copy my confirmation number down? Should I resubmit?
If you got a confirmation number, but you didn't copy it down, you're already in the system. I probably would not resubmit, but I also don't know how to go back or tell anybody how to go back and get my number so that you know where in the queue you are.
So if we're anticipating that following the patterns that we've seen precede us in this situation, and we're anticipating that hopefully things will be past that. We've flattened the curve. We've all done our part. We are, we're down the road in regards to understanding how to treat it better, all these different types of things. From what I'm hearing, potentially, you're kind of on your own to kind of keep yourself going. And by the time you finally get reimbursed for what you were willing to put out to your employees through this grant or whatever, to kind of rebuild your coffers, if you have the liquidity to be able to keep things going and take care of your employees, that we may all be back to work before you may actually see a dime.
It's possible.
Okay.
It sounds very cynical. This is supposed to be a positive, upbeat.
That was positive. It was the back to work part. That was the positive part.
It's funny. I've been telling clients, I said, hey, you've got to do what's best for your business, for your operation as well. So, hey, Jared, turn the heat down. If your employees aren't around, don't turn it off so that your pipes freeze. But turn the heat down, reduce or eliminate those expenses that you can reduce or eliminate. If you really don't have, work for your employees to do, probably furlough or lay them off until such time as you reasonably can get back to work. So yeah, do all the things that make a whole bunch of sense for your business first, and then also try to get relief or assistance wherever you possibly can.
Yeah,
got it. So how is this different for our nonprofit friends watching? Do the same rules apply if I'm a nonprofit?
Most of the same rules apply. You still have to apply through your lender. You still have to do the application forms for the PPP or the EIDL, right? So if you're going through the EIDL, there's little boxes you can check. If you're going through the PPP program, the SBA form 2483, you guys don't care about the number, but the application number, they actually have a box or a series of boxes at the top where you mark, I'm a 501c3. The only thing that really doesn't apply, there's a number of questions in there about ownership and affiliation. So they want to make sure that if you have, 5 McDonald's restaurants, Jared, that you're not applying for all 5 of them because you really own all of the restaurants. So there's affiliation percentages. If you own more than 20% of an organization, you have to list it on your form. But if you're a not-for-profit, you mark the little boxes and not-for-profit. Ownership says not applicable. And then the little confirmation there's a series of questions on the third or fourth page that basically the executive director of the organization or the CEO of the organization will sign off those to make sure that they are compliant on behalf of the organization rather than the ownership. This is also available for religious organizations. It's supposed to be also available for tribal organizations. So, if anybody out there is questioning that, it's supposed to be available for all of these small organizations.
So what have we not covered that we should have talked about? And if you're watching us live right now, I know that there's many of you doing so. Now is your last chance to ask those questions. Tim, what have we not asked you?
The big misconception on the PPP is including your payroll taxes, your federal payroll taxes. So Social Security and Medicare can be a pretty big number if you've got a big payroll. They have clarified, I.R.E.S., Treasury, and SBA clarified on Monday night that you cannot include your federal payroll taxes. The concept being that they don't want to forgive a loan that you would owe back to them anyway. So federal payroll taxes are out. If you don't get it forgiven, the PPP, let's say you really do go on your vacation, then the interest rate for that period of up to 2 years is a 1% interest rate, and then after that it converts to that up to 10-year deal. A lot of people are asking, if I'm an LLC taxed as a partnership, I can't pay myself via payroll. So how do I do that? There's been some guidance from the SBA about net self-employment earnings. And so early guidance talked about that was actually owner distributions, not net and self-employment. So that's been clarified to say, hey, it's the amount of money that you make, not the amount of money that you take. Let's see, $100,000 cap. So let's say people, if you pay somebody over $100,000, each employee or business owner is limited to a total of $100,000. There was confusion about that regarding the $100,000 cap. Does it just apply to the payroll, or does it apply to the benefits there? So if all of a sudden I'm paying Lisa $150,000 and $20,000 a year in health benefits and $10,000 a year in retirement benefits, so she really is making $180,000. Do I have to reduce my PPP loan by 80 or only 50? So they clarified that that's only on direct compensation. So I would only have to reduce her wages by 50,000 for the PPP application. A lot of people are using employee leasing companies and PEOs, professional employer organizations. The IRS says that even though all those wages are reported under their tax ID number, you as a small business can claim those wages on your PPP application. So that's really nice, because there was a lot of concern that if I used one of those, I wouldn't be eligible for this program.
Right.
Early guidance from the SBA says for either one of these programs, SBA doesn't like people who have been convicted of felonies. So the original guidance basically said if you were ever convicted of a felony, you're out in the cold. They have revised their guidance and says if you're currently incarcerated on parole or probation, or convicted of a felony within the last 5 years, you're out. So if it's 5 years and a day, go ahead and apply. Let's see, what else? What's interesting is a lot of people are saying, hey, under that PPP program, I mentioned there's no corporate guarantees or personal guarantees or really any requirement to submit financial statements or tax returns for this PPP program. But several of the lending institutions have actually asked people to supply their tax returns for the last 2 or 3 years or financial statements on a year-to-date basis. And because these are going through the lenders, they're allowed to put additional requirements on there if, in fact, they so desire. So if you really don't want to submit your tax returns or you really don't want to submit your financial statements, at this point, probably try and find a different lender, which is going to be difficult, but they're out there. But yeah, the SBA is not requiring that, but your 7A lender or your FDIC insured financial institution may require that as additional support for their underwriting.
I had heard that that the banks for the PPP are working primarily with the people that they have established business relationships with, and not taking in any additional applications at this time. Is that correct?
Certain financial institutions, yes, said you had to have a banking relationship and a lending relationship, a prior lending relationship with for them to be able to consider you for the program. I've heard of other financial institutions that are kind of taking care of their, unfortunately, preferred customers first, because again, this SBA program is supposed to be a first come, first served program. So I've heard of that. And then I've also heard of other financial institutions that said, basically, we don't care that if you didn't have a relationship with us at all, you have to, going forward, open an account or something like that, but we'll be happy to take your application right now. So it's interesting as they kind of spin their marketing efforts concurrent with the opportunity to get new customers.
Right.
Well, I think that you will remember who took care of you and who didn't, right?
And taking care of you does not mean 2 bullets to the back of the head like the mafia says.
Hey, Tim, will you please share your info, easiest way to get a hold of you, whether that's website, phone number, email?
Absolutely. I was trying to put it into chat, and apparently I'm technologically illiterate, but my email address is tnelson@encpas, so Edward Nancy CPAs.com. My telephone number is 775-825-6008, and our website is www.encpas.com. So again, Edward Nancy CPAs plural.com.
Tim, you sent us over a really great kind of a summary sheet this morning, kind of as a document to kind of reiterate some of these questions and answers and whatnot. Is that something that you're planning on posting on your website as a free download, or? Yes,
it is. I gave it to my people, and we'll see how quick it gets up. And to the extent that they reach out to you, Lisa, or to you, Jared, as well, that's all of that information is perfectly shareable.
Okay.
Awesome.
Excellent.
So, this is just, somebody said email again, please. T Nelson, right? The letter T, Nelson.
Let's see how well Jared was paying attention. Evans Nelson, or ENCPAS. So ENCPAS.com.
Is Jared going to put it in the chat box?
Yes.
Good job, Jared. Just a little bit of clarification on the EIDL program. And you may have answered this, and I'm actually for my daughter. So, because I'm learning all this stuff, and she has a 1-month-old baby and a toddler. So she's just trying to exist at this point in time. She's with little sleep. For the EIDL program, she has her own business. Her primary client is an airlines, which they very kindly said, we love you to death, but guess what? We're not working with you for the rest of the year. Yeah. So basically has no income at this point in time. And she is her only employee. Okay. But she works from her home. Yep. She doesn't have a space. So this EIDL loan, especially, relating to realtors and things like that, people that tend to work out of their homes, the intent behind the EIDL loan is to pay for your business lease or mortgage or something like that. Can she take and justify a certain percentage of the space of her home and use that money to pay for that certain percentage of her mortgage payment? Is that something that would be viewed down the road as she's filing her taxes and whatnot and explaining and justifying what she did with the money? Is that acceptable, would you say?
Yeah, the high level guidance that we've been provided is anything that you would take as a business deduction on your tax return then qualifies for that. So if she was a sole proprietor and took her home office, like C.A.R.E.S has a standard deduction for home office, $5 per square foot up to $300 or 300 square feet, so $1,500. So whatever you would be using for that, as long as it relates to a business expense, is supposed to qualify.
Okay, cool. So she could then get the EIDL loan or the grant, the $10,000 grant,
both.
And then use that, apply through the SBA, and then use that to pay $1,500 of what her mortgage payment is, because she has 300 square feet of her basement and set up as her home office.
Right.
Okay, cool. That's great to know. Hopefully that helps other realtors and people that are self-employed that were more specific to that. And not worry about the fact that she's not going to be able to justify or explain or support her choice as to what to do with the money.
Right.
Lisa,
because there's always that part that you don't know about, that the IRS comes back and says, oh yeah, no, you didn't understand what we said. that's what areas are like, oh no, I don't want to do that.
Did you say reasonable and IRS in the same sentence?
It's worth a shot.
Pipe dreams. So Lisa, tell us, so for the entire month of April, every Thursday at 1:00, we are hosting a conversation just like this with Tim, with you, with me. We're frantically trying to get some other guests to join us as well. So next week, we're talking about the stimulus payments for you as an individual. Do you want to talk about just that real quickly, what you expect for us to cover? Why would it be important for you to be on that call?
Yeah, so the part of the CARES Act for the individual is everybody's supposed to get up to $1,200 per adult or $500 per child. There's income limitations about that, all kinds of ways that you can misstep, all kind of strategies. Like, for example, I've had several people that said, I made more money in 19 than I did in 18. Please don't file my 19 return yet so I can get the whole $1,200. So all kinds of strategies. We'll go over those in detail. We'll talk about timing. The IRS is talking about, when payments are going to start being made and to whom they will be made first, and the ways that you can advance the payment to you as opposed to waiting to an August or September date. So all those strategies about how to get it, how to get a higher amount, and what are the pitfalls in those stimulus payments.
So you haven't seen anybody get anything yet, have you?
No, the Treasury announced today that they anticipate payments will start to be made about the 13th. One of the news organizations said some people would start getting them today, and that's exactly opposite what the Treasury is telling us.
Now, just really quickly, in preparation for that, because I know we'll go into detail on that next week, but in preparation for that happening, what if you do not have a routing number on record with the IRS? Is there a way you can go onto the IRS website, pull up your record, and give them your routing number?
What's interesting is they have said they're developing a web portal, and to get the IRS to do anything on a quick basis is going to be surprising, but they anticipate by the end of this month, there will be an active web portal where you can upload that information. My comment is it's the Treasury Department. They probably already have it.
They more know than we want them to know, right?
But I've had a few people that actually owed for 2019 opted to pay via direct debit rather than sending in a check to the IRS just to get that information to the federal government.
Yeah, it's smart. That's definitely smart.
So next week, that will be the conversation that we dive into next Thursday. That's April. I have to look at my calendar now. When is that?
What day is the 9th?
April 16th.
So
next Thursday, April 16th, right here live. So this is a great, today we were talking about small business owners and real estate professionals and how the stimulus applies to you as a business owner. Our next conversation is all about how does the stimulus apply to you as a person, right? So if you have clients who are curious about how does this affect me, all three of us are asking you to share this information, share this live video. They can be here next week with us live, chat with your clients, chat with your family, chat with your friends, let them know what we're doing. Because we're doing this to provide you information. And I know that there is so many questions around the stimulus bill in general, and how much money do I qualify for, and when will I see that, and does the IRS even know what to give me, and what happens if I don't get it next week, and is this income, is it taxable income? Like there's so many questions around it that we are going to dive into, and we hope you invite your clients and friends and family to check it out with us as well.
Cool. Yeah. Awesome.
So any last parting words?
No, as this thing continues to roll out, we'll give you the best information that we have available at the time. So very, very timely.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for watching. Thank you for the dozens of comments, and we look forward to seeing you next Thursday at 1 o'clock.
Yeah, amen.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.